Same hill, same path. A lot harder, huh?
Yeah.
Does that make the power wagon worth it?
Definitely.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? So today we're going to be testing out two Litheli E-Wagons. This is their older W1 Pro, and we have the new W2 Pro here. So we're going to be putting these wagons through their paces today to see which one's more powerful, what the differences are between the two, and which one's right for you if you were considering purchasing one of these and didn't know which one to get, or if you just want to see how they perform. Now, what's awesome about these wagons is they run on one of these 20-volt U20 batteries, and this battery can also be used as a power bank to recharge your laptop, cell phones, things like that. And in fact, I've taken these on multiple trips, multiple different times on an airplane because they're below the limit for most airlines at 74 watt hours a piece for the 4 amp hour batteries. And I never run out of juice on my iPhone or my iPad when I have these with me, which is pretty amazing. Plus, these batteries work in all their other power tools. They have a huge line of different tools, and I've used these in the snow blower, the snow shovel, the cordless weed whacker, and the 13-inch push mower. And I'm actually getting some more tools from them, so stick around if you want to see those videos, because I have a bigger mower coming, the leaf blower, and the chainsaw. So if you're interested in how they perform, stick around, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in that video. All right, everyone, so these wagons are rated for around 132 pounds of capacity a piece, and even though that's what's in the manual, they state that you could put up to 300 pounds in these wagons. Now, I got the Anchor Solix F3800s in each of these wagons, so you can kind of see here as a comparison size-wise. They're almost the same size, but I feel like the older one is just slightly a little bit bigger. But these each weigh 132 pounds, which is what the limit is. So first, let's start out in gear 3 on this one and max speed on the older one and see just how fast each one of these are and how it does hauling max capacity. And I'm letting the wagons pretty much do the work themselves. Looks like on gear 3 and highest speed of the original one, it looks like they're almost identically the same speed with max weight in them, so pretty good. And this is up through a grassy area here. Uh-oh, the new one's gaining just slightly. So far, so good. I would say about the same speed. Now on this one, you could turn this knob and slow it down. And on the other one, you have to hit a button to slow it down. So that's one difference. On this one, you can just turn the knob as you're walking. And on this one, there's a button for low, medium, and high. Whew, I'm a little bit out of breath there from walking backwards. So one thing I noticed, if you want to pull these by hand without the motor, you can do so. However, on this one, when you pull, it turns it on because it pulls in on this handle. So you have to shut the motor off, or be cautious not to pull that handle. You might have to pull it from here, and you could pull it no problem without the motor. You can hear the motor is not engaged. And there is something else I want to show you about that, because sometimes the motor does stay engaged. I'll show you how to not engage it so you can pull it by hand. And on the older model, I actually prefer this one a little bit better, because while it's on, you can't pull this handle unless you push this button down. So you could pull it all day long without the power of the motor, without the power of the battery. And then when you need power, you just push this button in and it gives you power. But like I said, on this one, if you try to pull it without the motor, it's going to automatically engage that motor unless you turn it off, because it's kind of hard to pull without pulling this switch in. So when you're pulling these with the power on and then you let go of the power, it's kind of hard to pull. You can hear, actually, I don't even know if the wheel's really turning. So the motors are kind of still somewhat engaged. You can hear it. If you stop, maybe back up just slightly, it disengages that motor. Now it's really easy to pull and free to pull without the motor. So one thing to keep in mind, if you're pulling it with the motor and then you disengage it, stop completely and then start again. And if it's hard to pull, you might want to back up just an inch or so, and it disengages those motors and allows you to pull it a lot easier by hand. Let go, and you can see the wheels locked up. It's kind of like a braking feature, and it's really hard to pull. Stop, back up slightly, and now it's easy to pull. And it's going to be like that on both wagons. So now let's try it up a hill and see how it does. But first, let's try it down the hill and see if there's any braking here. Let's put it in slow speed. Now I have the handle pulled in. I let go and it did stop, and it's holding steady there. That's because the motors are still engaged. And like I said, if you push back slightly, now it's gonna go down the hill free because it disengaged those motors. So that's kind of a safety feature there. When you let go of the handle, it kind of engages the brake. So that's nice when you're going downhill. If you keep that handle in, it's only gonna go down the speed that you have it set to. And this is a pretty steep hill. Good traction. I'm just pulling up minimally, and it's walking right up it, no problem. Very, very nice. And we're gonna try this with a regular wagon with no power and see how hard that is with 132 pounds in it as well. So make sure you stick around. Now let's try this one. Lower it down here to the slow speed and we'll see if the brakes work the same on this one. So I can hear it engaged, but the brakes do not work as good on this one. It's pretty much gonna take off. And you can hear the motors. So the motors are definitely better on the new version for going downhill. Now let's go back up it. And with these smaller wheels, they are gonna get slightly less traction, but let's see how it does. Let's go up the same path. And it just cut power. And I did have this happen on the new one before too. I think if you put too much strain on it, as a safety precaution, it cuts power, but it will start back up. Now I'm just pulling really easily, no problems as well, right up it. Other than the motor's cut out. But like I said, I did have that actually happen to me yesterday when I was messing around with that one. So I think once it gets on a certain incline, if you have too much weight, it will cut the powers of the motor. And to be honest, that's better than breaking something. All right, so now I got my son trying it. You can see it's going down really easy. He's in gear 1. It's kind of braking itself. And now he's gonna try to turn it around and take it up there. Just to kind of show you that you don't need a whole lot of your own power to pull it up. So let's see if he can do it. He's gonna try to follow the same path. And it stalled. So it cuts out too if you're not pulling hard enough. But he made it up, no problem. So now let's try both at the same time. All right, so now we got both wagons coming down. And yeah, this one I have to hold back, the old one, the new one I don't have to. So the old one will take off. All right, here we go. Both wagons up the same hill. Actually, let's make sure I'm in the highest mode on both. Yep. Here we go. And they both have a pretty slow startup. They both start up gradually no matter what gear you're in. I am pulling just slightly. And combined here with both wagons, this is 264 pounds. No problems. So I pulled the same weight or the same amount on both of these wagons and it pulled up very easily. Now let's try a non-powered wagon. So this is size-wise, this is the new one and this is the old one. So a little bit bigger on the old one. And I love that the old one has a flip down tailgate and the new one doesn't. So keep that in mind. If you want to put longer items in that you think might be longer than this wagon, you might want to get the older version because you can flip that tailgate down and put longer items in it. It has 2 clamps here and 2 zippers in the corners. And that tailgate folds down real nice on the original version. In my opinion, it would have been nice if they put those wheels and tires on this wagon. That would have been pretty amazing. All right, so now we got the old red manual wagon. Let's get this thing loaded in there and see how it does. And this makes it a little bit easier too, getting stuff out with this drop down tailgate. Man, these things are heavy. Ugh, 132 pounds. Ugh, whew. And I do feel like this wagon, the base is a lot stronger than the new wagon. On the new wagon, it only has a cross support underneath. So there's really nothing holding the sides or the 2 short sides, only an X in the middle. And on this wagon here, on the original version, it has a full support structure, a whole square with bars going down the sides and then 2 additional bars going this way so it gives you a lot better support. However, it doesn't fold up as small. So if you need something smaller when you're traveling, you might want to get the newer version. But yeah, you can see as far as weight goes, the wheels are actually pushing down through the bottom a little bit, and it's hanging down underneath because it's not really sitting on these support bars. So it's holding the weight just fine. It's just on that version, it's a lot more solid. And then because of the way the new one folds up, you can see there's no bar here straight across the top. It kind of X's. And on this one, it has the bar across the top, so that makes this a little bit more secure. And then obviously, like I said, you have a tailgate. On this one, you have no tailgate because of the way it has to fold and fold in. And on the new one here, you actually have a pretty cool little bag here that you can put stuff in, extra batteries, extra gear. So that's a pretty nice touch there. And on the original version, you have 2 cup holders here on the inside. I think it would have been pretty sweet if they would have put those on the outside, but at least you have something there on the inside. And other than that, that's about it for storage. So you do get a little extra additional storage on the outside on the new model. All right, let's try this thing out, see how hard it is. I can tell you one thing, it's probably gonna go flying downhill, and these tires are a little bit closer together. Whoa. The handle retracted there on this one. All right, so let's see how hard it is to pull this one up. We're gonna go up the same path. Oh yeah, it's definitely heavy. I'm working like 10 times harder, holy cow, trying to get up here. It's kind of hard to show. Here, bud, see if you can pull this. It's not as steep now where he's at. Same hill, same path. A lot harder, huh?
Yeah.
Does that make the Power Wagon worth it?
Definitely.
All right, let me help you. Yeah, so much easier with the power when you hit the hills. Now, on level ground, it's gonna be about the same as pulling those ones around without the motor. But when you hit hills, that's when it's gonna matter. One thing about this wagon though, is it's gonna be a lot quieter than hearing those electric motors on those. It would have been pretty nice if they had a brushless hub motor in those, and it would have been ultra quiet. All right, so now we got this thing maxed out. This is about just over 300 pounds, go ahead. Let's see if it'll pull us, or pull me. So the power station's 132 pounds, and I'm about 170 to 175 pounds. So it is pulling me. The manual says 132 pound max, go up that way. A little harder to turn with this much weight. All right, this is, whoop, and it stalled out. So going uphill slightly, must have maxed out the weight there. Go ahead, see if you can get it going. You're gonna have to pull a little bit. So it is going. It's definitely easier than not having power, but like I said, when you hit them hills, that was weird that it stalled out there. Now, the battery is about half battery right now, about 2 bars. Go back up that way. And pull, and make sure you pull. So yeah, I'll probably never be hauling this much weight in here. I mean, go up that way, bud. Don't go down the hill. But it will do it. It'll definitely hold the capacity as far as holding the weight, but when you hit them hills, it's gonna die out if it's too much strain for the motors. And for me to normally put 300 pounds in there, it's gonna be way too much. The load would probably be way too full because honestly, that thing there is pretty heavy. Let's see what the battery's at. Down to 2 bars. And keep in mind, if you have 300 pounds in there, it's gonna drain that battery probably a lot faster. All right, let's see how well these fat tires or wider tires do in the gravel. I think they're doing really well, a lot better than the skinnier tires in the gravel. All right, everyone, there you have it. There's the power of the Litheli E-Wagons. And I gotta be honest with you, I was pleasantly surprised with how much easier it was to pull one of these uphill than it was a regular wagon with 132 pounds in it. So now let's check out some of the differences between these 2 wagons and show you guys one of the main features that I like on the older one versus the newer one that I wish they would have kept. So this is the new W2 Pro wagon, and the difference between this one and the older one is that the battery mounts on the frame here of the older one. It takes 1 battery, and there's a little key here that you have to have in here for it to be working. And on the new one, on the W2 Pro, you have the same battery compartment, but it's now attached to the handle. Now, I'm not sure if I like it like this or like that. To be honest, that probably doesn't matter much. The biggest upgrade on the new W2 wagon is the fact that it has 7-inch wider tires, and on the older model it has 8-inch skinny tires. And these wider tires are going to be a lot easier to maneuver around in the grass, on gravel, maybe in a little bit of light sand, things like that. So it's going to be a lot easier to pull and maneuver over some of those harder obstacles. Now they both have wheel locks here on the front wheels to keep the wagons from moving when they're parked, and the capacity is just slightly bigger in the older model versus the newer model. The newer model is rated for 150 liters and the older model is rated for 190 liters, but I think that's when the tailgate is folded down. Now, I showed you guys this already, but I think this is the coolest feature, and I don't know why they well, I do know why they removed it, because they had to have the wagon fold in also, but that would have been awesome if they could have kept this folding tailgate on the newer version, because I absolutely love this feature for hauling longer items. So I think they get the little bit extra capacity with this being down of 190 liters. But here's the size difference inside between the two. This is the mat from the new wagon inside the older wagon, and I would say that the older wagon is probably about 1 inch longer inside, maybe just a 1/2 inch wider on the W1 Pro. So yes, if you're looking for extra capacity, the W1 is going to be a little bit bigger than the W2. The next biggest upgrade is on the newer model. It comes with dual 450 watt motors, one for each back wheel, and the original version came with one 450 watt motor that controlled both back wheels. So you can see this is the gearbox in the center here on the W1 Pro, and on the W2 Pro you got one motor on each wheel. So definitely a way better design on the wheels on the W2 Pro versus the W1. However, on the W1, like I was talking about earlier, is that the W1 has more supports going down this way and across this way, and then also all the way down each side. On the W2 Pro, you only have a crossbar right in the center. You don't have anything running down the sides or across the short sides. So that's your only supports for the bottom on the new W2 Pro. I know why they did this. They did it so that it folds up a lot smaller and a lot more compact when you're traveling. However, that one definitely, like I said, seems a lot stronger on the bottom when you're putting gear and things like that in it, because it has more supports for the weight to set on. So even with 132 pounds in each wagon, it held the weight of both, and actually held the weight of me as well, so 300 pounds in the new model. So it will hold the weight, but like I said, I just feel like the original W1 Pro is a little bit sturdier. I really think they need to put this drive system on that wagon, and that would be awesome. Both of these wagons have a safety switch right here, so that switch has to be out for the wagon to move. So once the handle reaches a point like that, it'll shut the power off on each of the wagons. Then you have 2 rings on each side for strapping down your gear, and you also have those 2 rings on the older model as well. And when you fold this wagon up, you do have to unzip this, and then this actually wraps around once it's folded up to keep it nice and tight. Now, one thing to keep in mind is they do make an egg roll table for these wagons, but if you get the newer version and you have that egg roll table on there, you're not going to be able to access what's underneath it unless you remove that table. On the old one, you're able to flip that tailgate down, and then you can get to your things that are stored underneath. So like I said, I think that flip down rear tailgate is pretty awesome. And the estimated runtime for these wagons on the older version that has one 450 watt motor is rated for 30 minutes of use, and the newer model that has dual 450 watt motors is rated for 20 minutes of use. But thankfully, I have tons of batteries that go to all my other stuff, snow blowers, lawnmowers, weed whackers, leaf blowers, things like that, so I could power this thing all day long if I wanted it to. And of course, that's probably going to depend on how much weight you have in the wagon, how many hills you're going up, and how much you're pulling it yourself. And foldability and compactness, the old model, the W1 Pro, is going to be a little bit easier to fold. It has the one handle in the middle. You just pull that up, and then you have a strap that goes underneath that holds it together. However, notice this one doesn't really stand up too well on its own. I mean, it will stand up, but just something to keep in mind. And on the new model, what you have to do is, instead of it just having the thing in the middle that you pull up, you have to remove the bottom panel first. Then that will reveal your thing in the center here. Pull it up, and it folds in. And you want to have these wheels aligned just like that. Folds up nicely here. And this one will actually stand up really nicely on its own on the 4 wheels. And you can also pop this off if you really wanted to. And then you wrap your inside flap around the wagon here, and then you wrap this outside flap around and buckle it up. Weight-wise, they do feel about the same. Actually, that center strap's starting to pull off on here. Don't pick it up by that center strap, because it will rip off of there. So you probably have to use 2 hands to carry these. keep that in mind. There's really no handle. That would have been nice to see a nice heavy duty handle sewn on the center here so that you can carry them around, but don't try to pick them up from that strap because you'll rip it off. And there's how compact they are when they're folded up. The new one's a little bit harder to fold up, but more compact, and the older one is a little bit easier to fold up and unfold. All right, so overall, what do I think? I think that the new one's overall gonna be nice for traveling through rougher terrain, maybe looser terrain with them wider tires, and has a little bit more power and a little bit less spinning when you're going uphill. And if you need something a little bit more compact, I would definitely go with the new W2 Pro. However, if you want something that has a little bit more capacity with that flip down tailgate for longer items, I would definitely consider the original W1 Pro. And it's just gonna be a little bit slightly bigger when you have that thing packed up if you're taking it on vacation, camping, and things like that. And when I go camping, one of these wagons are definitely gonna go with me because sometimes we'll go to off-grid camping trips and sometimes you gotta carry your gear pretty far to get to those places. And I think it'll be perfect for that. Oh, and one other thing I'm gonna use it for is I have a wood pile up there. When I have a fire, I usually have it way down here. So whenever I get wood for that fire pit, I'll just take this wagon up, fill it up there, and just drive it down. But let me know down below in the comments which one you think you would prefer. And like I said, if you're interested in picking one of these up, please consider using the affiliate link down below in the description. And if you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing, and I'll see all of you around on the next one. Thanks for watching.